Islam. Sorry, friends, the tape cut off. This is a continuation of where we left off. In the Eastern philosophy, in the Hindu system, the god Brahma corresponds with the demiurge or Jehovah of the Christian system of the Old Testament. Brahmas, there's a mythology where Brahmas, every out-breath, every time he out-breaths or exhales, then he creates an entire system of universes. And that's what corresponds in science to the Big Bang, coming out of the one single point and going and splitting into a multitude and multiplicity of universes that stretch on miles and miles and miles, eons and eons and eons of time, maybe like 100 trillion or something preposterous numbers. And that cycle, that's a cycle of evolution. Or I'm sorry, a cycle of involution or evolution. One of the two. But that's basically the world's coming into existence and growing and manifesting the will of the false god demiurge. Then in every inhalation of Brahma, then that's what corresponds in the scientific model to the big crunch, where everything rushes back to the one point, which corresponds in the Islamic system, in the Quran, where they say, from Allah we come, to Allah we return. So everything comes out, this entire world of matter and time comes out of the demiurge, and it all returns to the demiurge. So he's learning from each one of those cycles. But that's an imperfection, the fact that he has to create universes in order to manifest his will, and also in order to learn from those cycles of perfection. So that's what's being said here. One moment. Then he says, all things that can be seen by human eyes are manifest of aught, are not, and so must pass away. So this entire physical world, this passing of time, because you can see it, that means that it is imperfect in some sense. It's not the same as your spirit, which you cannot see. So I'm going to continue now. The second question by Lamas. Lamas said, you answer well. Now what is man? And Jesus said, man is the truth and falsehood, strangely mixed. Man is the breath, or the spirit, made flesh. And so truth and falsehood are conjoined in him, and they strive, and naught goes down, and man as truth abides. So that's again the mythology of the spirit being imprisoned by the false god demiurge in the matrix of the soul and the body, and having to struggle his way out, having to fight his own nature, which he has been imprisoned in, the nature of falsehood, the nature of change, and exert the supremacy of the spirit or the will over all that has been made manifest. So you have to basically subjugate, like the compass subjugates the square, your spirit must subjugate your soul and your body to its will. And that's when the naught or the falsehood of everything that's manifest goes down, or when I say the falsehood, I'm speaking of the entire world, the entire created universe of matter and time and all that stuff. It is subjugated by the omnipotent will of your spirit, and it goes down, and man as truth abides. Not necessarily saying that you leave the plane, because you actually have two choices once you complete the great work. You have the choice of going back to the world of the unmanifest, the world of perfection, to the true Most High, and living in that world, living in Hyperborea, living in the north, where beyond manifestation, time and space and all that stuff. Or you have a choice, which is the choice of the Gnostic warrior, the choice of the Christ energy, to perfect your body and soul and make it a vessel for your spirit, and then continue the great work, the great fight against the forces of darkness, against the demiurge, false god, and his armies of hell, in order to free all of the Moorish spirits. So you have a choice, but and we'll go on. The next question, again, Lamas asked, what do you say of power? And Jesus said, or Yehoshua said, it is a manifest. It is the result of force. It is but naught. It is illusion, nothing more. Force changes not, but power changes as the ethers change. Force is the will of Allah and is omnipotent, and power is that will in manifest, directed by the breath. There is a power in the winds, a power in the waves, a power in the lightning stroke, a power in the human arm, a power in the eye. The ethers cause these powers to be, in thought of Elohim, of angel, man, or other thinking things directs the force. When it has done its work, the power is no more. Now this is very important because we're dealing with power. And then one of my previous tapes, which I'll visit again, the thing that is most needed by the Moors right now is not necessarily nationality, not necessarily like money, not necessarily certain knowledge, not necessarily any of those finite things, but all those finite things are part of one thing which you would call power. But what it's saying here is that power is really nothing. Power comes from the spirit, which is omnipotent. So the spirit is actually, again, I want to direct you to that symbol, the compass dominating the square. So the compass would be the force that is omnipotent, the force that is unmanifest and is infinity itself, and the square would be what directs that force, or it's the manifestation of that force, or the body and the soul, which are the manifested world, would be the outgrowth of the unmanifested spirit's will. So like the whole goal, and this happens all the time, like there's a part inside of you, your soul spark or your self, or the I am principle, or the I in the capstone, which directs your physical body every single day. It directs your thoughts. Well, if you're in control, then it directs your thoughts. Otherwise, your thoughts are directed by a lower principle inside of you, the ego, which is the microcosmic representation of Yaldabaoth, the false personality inside of you that has to be dominated, just like the compass dominates the square. But anyway, basically, the force is omnipotent. The God inside is omnipotent. But you are powerful. You have power in the extent to which you manifest or exert your will or your spirit over the things of manifestation. It says there's a power in the eye. There's a power in looking, but the seeing is just the manifestation of your desire, of your spirit's will to see and to understand, you know? So I'm going to go on. The next question, again, Lamaas asked, of understanding, what have you to say? It is the rock on which man builds himself. It is the gnosis of the ought and of the naught, of falsehood and of truth. It is the knowledge of the lower self, the sensing of the powers of man himself. This is very important. He just broke down what gnosis is, what the saving knowledge that will free man from the dream world and free man from the clutches of Yaldabaoth actually is. It is the gnosis of the ought and of the naught, of falsehood and of truth. The ought is the reality, the truth, the spirit. It is the unmanifested God, the Most High. It is everything that has not been created by Yaldabaoth, everything that is permanent. And of the naught, you have to also have to know the science of the manifestation. You have to know the science of how Yaldabaoth created the world, how he sustains the world, the laws that he's used. And once you have that knowledge, again, I'm going to direct you to the principles of Islam we have before us, the so-called Star of David, where you have the unmanifested world, or the ought, the upward pointing triangle, and the manifested world, and the world of illusion below, which is the downward pointing triangle. And you have man himself, the principle of man, or the seven, the perfected man, inside, in perfect harmony with both of those. So he's basically perfected his knowledge of both the true world of the ought, and the ought is just an old word which means that which is, and of the naught, which is an old word which means that which is not, or nothingness. So you've perfected your knowledge of falsehood and of truth, and now you are the Baphomet, in control of the world above and the world below. Ain't that something? So that's what he's dealing with here. That's what understanding, or gnosis, gives you. It is the rock on which man builds himself, on which he builds the temple of perfected man, Islam. And the next question, again, Lamaas asked, of wisdom, what have you to say? And Jesus said, it is the consciousness that man is aught, that Allah, or the unmanifested God, the Most High, and man are one, that naught is naught, that power is but illusion, that heaven and earth and hell are not above, around, below, but in, which is the light, which in the light of aught becomes the naught, and Allah is all. This is marvelous. This is very marvelous. This is pure gnosis that has to be decoded and absorbed at a very high adept level, y'all. Wisdom is the consciousness that man is aught, that man at his very essential nature, that his spirit is the only reality, and that he exists, he is truth and falsehood strangely mixed. So, but just because he has a body which will change, and a soul which will change, his true nature is infinity, and it is permanence. It is changeless. It is supreme and superior to all this stuff. It's just caged in illusion. So it's like have you ever seen one of those movies where the man he might be kidnapped or knocked out or whatever, and he's got scientists experimenting on him. They put like strange probes, or they might put a needle into his brain, and they put his mind through a series of tests. So he's like, he might be having like nightmares that he's running away from something, but all that stuff is illusion. It's happening. It's an illusion. It's a fake. It's a dream. And his reality, once he frees himself from that nightmare, his reality is that he's sane and he's conscious. It's just that, so basically the human spirit is being put through a nightmare of matter and time by the demiurge. A nightmare of death and pain and suffering by the demiurge false god. But our true essential nature, he can't touch that. He can drain some of its power, but its power is omnipotent, so he's not really draining your essence. And that's why he's also jealous, and that's why he's a jealous God. So that's why he's doing all this thing, because he actually hates our true spirit. Merge in some of the things you know about Satan in the Holy Koran and in the Bible, and you'll understand the adversarial nature. He who didn't really like the true man. He didn't like the fact that man was conscious, that man was favored by the Most High and stuff like that. So that's why he tested us, and that's why he's testing us with matter and time and all that stuff. You know. So it says it's the consciousness that Allah, that man is aught, that Allah, or the unmanifested God, and man in manifestation are one, that the nothingness of this world is truly nothingness, and that it is an illusion, and that it will pass away. That power, even that though you're moving in this world and you're controlling things and you can exert your will over this world, you can really exert your will over this world because this world is really nothing. It's really just a mist that you're directing with your consciousness, with your will. That heaven, or the unmanifested world, and earth, the solid world, and hell, the torturous world, they're not above, around, or below, but they're actually inner things that are happening. Going back to the man with the probes on his head. Like, everything that is actually happening is happening in your consciousness. Even matter is just a crystallization of consciousness. You know, there's a saying, if you are familiar with the Gnosticism of the Kabbalah, or the Tree of Life, it's the saying, it says that Keter, or the highest principle, the crown, or the first manifestation, or the primordial point, as they say, is in Malkuth, or the physical world, or the physical body. And Malkuth is in Keter, but after a different manner. So the spirit man is in the physical body, in the physical nature, and the physical nature is also the manifestation of the spirit man, but after a different manner. So basically, it's just a difference in vibration. Your spirit is vibrating at an infinitely low state, and your body is vibrating at a very, very slow state, which is why which is why it's imperfect, because it's not you. So that's also another. Excuse me if I'm jumping all over the place, but it's just that the gnosis is just popping up in my head. That's also why the compass is over the square, because the compass is the infinite vibrating rate of the spirit. And the square represents the physical nature, or Malkuth, and it's the very slow vibration. So you have to perfect the vibration of the square to that of the compass. Okay? And you do that by the use of the G, which is your true nature and your will, and the seven principles, or the seven chakras, or the seven powers of man. Also the seven planets and stuff like that, which is also the soul principle that was given by the demiurge that now is in your possession, and now you can use to manipulate and dominate the world of the demiurge by the compass. So some of that science. And so I'm going to go on. The next question by Lamas. Lamas asked, "Pray, what is faith?" And Jesus said, "Faith is the surety of the omnipotence of Allah, the Most High, and man. The certainty that man will reach the deific or divine life. Salvation is a ladder reaching from the heart of man to the heart of Allah, the Most High. It has 3 steps. Belief is first, and this is what man thinks, perhaps, is truth. And faith is next, and this is what man knows is truth. Fruition is the last, and this is man himself, the truth. Belief is lost in faith, and in fruition, faith is lost. And man is saved when he has reached deific life, when he and Allah are one." Again, very high gnosis, very straight Gnosticism, and this shows very clearly as well that the Islam brought by Noble Drew Ali was different, on a different octave than the dogmatic Islam that's practiced by the Arabs right now. Because it's actually much closer to the Sufi Islam, which is actually a occult Gnostic order, or a left-hand path order that focuses on liberating the spirit from the clutches of the demiurge false god, or who's actually Satan, and doesn't focus on the worship of the demiurge false god with the right-hand path. So I'm going to go over this shortly. He says, "What is faith? Faith is the surety of the omnipotence of Allah and man. The certainty that man will reach deific life. He will conquer and defeat the demiurge in his own kingdom and reign supreme in that kingdom, and eventually destroy that falsehood and return everything back to the unmanifested fire of the truth, of the light of the Most High." And then he talks about the salvation being a ladder that reaches from the heart of man to the heart of Allah, the Most High. Noble Drew Ali, in the questionnaire, I think question 3, says, "Where is the nearest place that I may meet Allah?" He says, "In your heart. In your heart chakra. Or in Tiferet, in the soul body." The soul body is actually a bridge point between the world that was made by the demiurge, which is the physical body, and the unmanifested world of your true self, which is the spirit, or the realm of the Most High as well. So in your own heart, in your own soul, in your own basic desire nature, in your vital principle that keeps your body alive and stuff like that, that's where you meet the Most High. You have to go in, but you have to turn from the outer world of forms and appearances to the inner world of divinity, the unmanifest, the subconscious, etc. And you have to liberate yourself from all those false personalities that are currently ruling your soul, and all those false personalities, which are really extensions of the schizophrenic demiurge himself. All of those false desires and things that you hate yourself for being. I just want to say clearly, don't hate yourself for anything that you've done, because there's the principle of I think it's like the 42 negative confessions of Ma'at, where basically it says, "I have not sinned, I have not lied, I have not cheated, I have not done any of the things that my physical body and soul have done, because my eternal spirit is a prisoner here." I use this word carefully, but you're the victim here. That's not abdicating responsibility for getting out of this matrix, of liberating yourself. And it's not saying you can be basically a jerk in this world and think that there's no repercussions, because you're still in the demiurge's world where karma rules supreme. So remember that. But it's just saying that your spirit is incorruptible. The energy of your spirit can be stolen for use in the lower planes. You can abuse the energy of your spirit all you want, but your spirit is going to remain incorruptible. It's not going to be corrupted in this thing. So that's where the spirit says, "I'm in this world, but I'm not of this world." But warning, your spirit can start to despise your personality for loving the demiurge more than you love and want to liberate the spirit. Because remember, even though you might not be consciously aware of it, your spirit is suffering every single day because matter, the things of time and space and flesh, the spirit abhors it because it's imperfect. Everything about creation is imperfect. So the spirit looks at this world with disdain and loves you the more energy and attention you give to the spirit in the great upliftment work of taking your spirit out of this world and into its own perfect state and perfecting your body and soul so the spirit can manifest itself here in its full glory, which is the Christ coming to earth, the Son of God or the Son of the Most High, or the bright shining star of light of the Most High, taking physical form, taking form in your soul and your body so that when men see you, they know that you're an otherworldly being, a so-called extraterrestrial who comes from Hyperborea, or the unmanifested plains above Keter. But yeah, your spirit can actually start hating your personality. So you definitely want to be careful. Because God or your spirit does have, it does judge you in the same way, but it doesn't judge you based on the standards of the demiurge, false god, who has all these inane rules. It basically judges you on how much attention you give to the outer world of illusion, how much attention you give to the inner world of reality, in the plight of your spirit and liberating your spirit from this prison planet. Going on. Oh, it has 3 steps, and these are the 3 degrees. Belief is first. Belief is when you hear some truth, you hear some light, and without it having really sunk in, without it having resounded for you, you take it on someone else's principle that it's true. So that's like the exoteric version. Like you go to church, you go to the mosque or whatever, you go to the synagogue, you read a book and you say, man, this sounds real. And then you start believing, you start investing your energy in that without it really having become your own yet. Now that's a necessary principle. You have to do that in the beginning. Like I remember at the beginning of my spiritual journey, I set out looking for the golden thread that tied all the religions and science and all those things together. And then I eventually found the Moorish paradigm and the esoteric part of religion. So my spirit guided me to the right path, and I thank you for that. And I'm staying strong with it. But I'm so sorry. Yeah. So basically, belief is when very sorry, brain fart. Yeah, so belief is when you open a book and you look into it and you accept it and you start doing more diligence, putting energy into it, without it having taken root inside of you. Faith is the next degree when it clicks. So now you're not borrowing light from these texts and from leaning on a teacher or a guru or anything, but now the light is starting to come from your own higher self, from your own spirit. It's starting to shine from the Sirius star inside of you. And the faith is the degree when you've got it, and now there's no way you're getting off the path because now it's not borrowed light, it's your own. So now you'll be having dreams, and your own higher spirit will be educating you in occult science that it might have taken another person to read 1,000 books to get, just because they don't have that connection with their higher self like that. And that's actually one of the things about the Moors, because the Moors have been here forever, because we do have the true and living spirit inside of us. We can hop on this gnosis a lot faster than maybe a European who's inside of one of these secret societies or one of these magical clubisms, because they have to get their gnosis from the books and texts and stuff like that. They have to evoke ancestors and things like that. They have to evoke spirits and things, whereas all that stuff is really inside of us. And our higher self, our inner spirit, is all and knows all, and it's connected straight to the Most High. So like we can have our own ancient ancestors, the ancient magi's, come to us while we're just sitting down here, and we might not even be aware of it and be like, dang, like where did I get this higher knowledge? Noble Drew Ali probably tapped you on the shoulder and you just didn't recognize it and put that stuff in your soul and heart, and the last degree, fruition, which is the most important. Fruition is basically, there's so many things. You can call it enlightenment. But fruition is when the spirit has been liberated from the prison of Malkuth, from the prison and the clutches of the false god Demiurge, has easy access and can go back to Hyperborea, or can go back to the real true world, the unmanifested planes above Keter whenever it pleases. It can go to and fro. It's not bound to this prison universe of time and matter and flesh anymore. And it has also perfected its soul and its body to be divine manifestations of itself. If you read the Circle 7, after the so-called crucifixion of the Christ, when he goes into Amenta, he goes into the sunken place, he goes into hell, into the underworld, and liberates all those souls, or liberates all of those parts of himself, those unregenerated aspects of his own subconscious, and then he rises again with his divinely perfected flesh, and he's basically built a perfect body for himself and a perfect soul for himself, so his spirit can have a vehicle, a perfected vehicle, not the imperfect body and soul that it's been using all its life, but it has a perfect vehicle to move between the planes and stuff like that. And that is the occult meaning of rebuilding Solomon's temple. That's the occult meaning of perfected man at the end of chapter 5 of Circle 7, when you're doing the masonry and stuff like that. So it's an inner temple, building the soul and the mind aspect. And then there's the outer temple, which is actually rebuilding the physical body, rearranging the DNA molecules, perfecting it where it's imperfected. And all this is carried out on an occult, esoteric level by your higher self. And that's actually the great work. The great work is liberating the spirit and perfecting the body and soul, freeing yourself from the clutches of the false god Demiurge, and aligning yourself with the plane of unmanifestation and the most high true God, the unknowable God, and completing the alchemy and completing the great work. And that's the fruition degree that everybody's trying to attain, you know. And the masters, the so-called angels or the prophets who come every now and then, they're actually masters who've completed that degree. So that's what an adept is also. An adept is one who has completed the fruition degree, is what he knows and not what he believes, and has a divine diamond body to show the results of his gnosis and of his alchemy, you know. And that's what it means when you reach the deific life, when you aren't just knowing, you're not just saying you're God because you have this divine spirit inside of you that's sleeping, that's encaged in Tartarus, in hell, in the physical body, but you actually are God made manifest because you have perfected and freed your spirit from the clutches of matter and time and space, and you have a perfected body that can carry you whither you will in this universe, on other planes as well. So you actually are God. And your physical body is just a vehicle for God, but there's a divine light shining off of your flesh and shining out of your mind, and every word that you speak is wisdom. Like the Circle 7 says, the lips of a wise man are like the doors of a cabinet. No sooner are they opened than wise words are poured out like trees of gold aligned in beds of silver, are wise words ordered in due course, in due season, excuse me. So that's the deific life, and that's when Allah and man are one. When the unmanifested, the God, and the manifested body and soul of man, that which was created by the Most High in the unmanifested melanin world beyond time and space, and when that which was created by the imperfect demiurge God, which has been perfected by the spirit man, like the square being leveled by the compass, when those two things have been perfected, now the G, or the rough ashlar, is perfected into the philosopher's stone or the philosopher's diamond, and that's perfected man. And that's when Allah and man are one. So I just wanted to take you through the Circle 7 Quran and realize that the book that you have is a divine book. It is an occult book. It is salvation. You need to kind of do some other research on other Gnostic texts to realize what you have had in your hand the entire time. But I'm telling you, there are degrees upon degrees upon degrees hidden inside of that cherished Gnostic text, the Holy Koran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. It is dealing with the primordial science of Islam or Gnosticism. And again, it is the forbidden religion, because they don't want you to perfect your spirit. And when I say they, I mean the demons of the demiurge, or the demons who run these religions and things like that, and these control systems and governments and stuff like that. The worst thing for them to do would be for you to wake up to your own divine nature and recap your pyramid. That's exactly what they don't want, because once you do that, then you'll realize that this is a world of illusion. I want to show you something really quickly. Kind of an aside, kind of non sequitur, but look. See that? That's the Illuminati. It's the Illuminati. Can you see it? That's basically the eye in the pyramid, or one of the symbols, the great seal of the Moorish nation, actually. And you see how the eye has been uncapped. That eye represents your divine spirit. And the bottom part represents your body of flesh, or your soul body, and things like that. So basically, the divine eye has been uncapped by... It is uncapped, on basically everybody on the planet Earth except the Gnostics, except the Moors and the ones who have done the alchemy. And actually, Europeans are more capped than most Moors at this time, unfortunately. That's sad but true. They're more into our science than we are at this time, sad but true. In the top part, and this is going to really trip you out, it says in Latin, annuit coeptis, which basically means he has favored our work. And at the bottom it says Novus Ordo Seclorum, or New Order of the Ages. Annuit coeptis, he has favored our work. The he they're talking about is God, or the God of the Roman nations, or the God of the European Jacobean experiments, which is Yaldabaoth, the false god demiurge, the god of all the exoteric religions, etc. Novus Ordo Seclorum means new world order, or new order of the ages. The new world order is the perfected work of the demiurge that he's been trying to do for all these years, which is basically kill the spirit inside of man, and complete inside the Moorish man, particularly the real man who has that divine spirit, and completely subjugate him to his will, or man bending to the will of the demiurge, as they say that the exoteric Islam means. And they say this is the Great Seal. This is the Great Seal of the Roman nations. The capped pyramid is the seal of the Moorish nation. Uncapped, that's the seal of the demiurge, or the seal of the Roman nations who conquered us, who totally conquered us, uncapped our pyramids, took our sciences, and are now using them to serve the demiurge. So, again, I just wanted to drop that on you. I love you guys, and I want us all to recap our pyramids and to really dig into our Moorish Gnostic Holy Koran, the Moorish Science Temple of America, because the Prophet left us a great legacy. We just got to unfold into it. Peace, Islam, Hibu, Haq, Salam, Huriyatun, Wa'adul, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I greet thee, 33, Islam.